Okay, this is so exciting. So we are actually live in the Digital Parenting Facebook group and also on Digital Parent Coach page and even in my Digital Parenting Coach YouTube channel. So woo, I'm super excited about that. So this is my Ask the Expert series, and as you know, I'm Elizabeth Milovidov, and I am an American lawyer and European e-safety consultant, digital safety consultant, and my real jam is digital parenting and trying to help parents. So tonight, in daytime, wherever you are, and other places, I know in Canada that it's a little bit earlier than it is right now in Paris, France. But tonight I have Dr. Ed with me, and we are going to get into some really great topics around screen time, quality time. And so I will let Dr. Ed introduce himself because he's going to do a much better job than I can. So go for it.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. First of all, it's an honor to be involved with the digital parenting community. You guys are doing some great work. And it's really awesome to see like all of these different communities and how parents are getting together really to talk about screen time, to talk about other topics. And I know this is a growing area of concern. Many of the parents that I speak with, they're telling me, oh, it seems impossible. Like they're on the screens all the time. What can I do about it? And that's something that I wanted to approach from a slightly different perspective, because
Right.
in addition to being a parent, my background is also, I have a PhD in computer science. And so I run a group called AI Parenting Live, where I do a weekly live stream about how like parenting in this world of artificial intelligence. And things have changed. Like, what's the difference between screen time when we were watching TV versus screen time today? Well, there's a
Right.
huge difference. And a lot of it has to do with the changes in who curates what content we see. And, is there a board, or are there people behind it? It's not. It's mostly artificial intelligence. So
Yeah.
understanding a little bit about that is helpful.
I was just going to say, you said a key word, Ed, that just made me say, and you said curating content. And so, when we're talking about screen time, we're talking about, especially during the pandemic, and our children are on screens more and more, my own as well, right now as I'm doing this live. We're always concerned about, what are they watching and how can we ensure that what they're watching is the best quality, is something that's educational or entertaining or something that they're learning. And so when you mention curating, what's behind that word?
Uh, it's a really good question. I think that when it comes to content, we sometimes just let the computer make these decisions, and
Right.
we don't realize that actually these decisions are not being made by people. They're being made by machines. They're being made by computers, algorithms, and AI. And when I talk about curation, like the job of most of these systems, if you think about it, is to keep you there as long as possible, right? So their
Right.
job is to just increase watch time. And so what they're doing is they're looking for things that are similar to what you currently watch. So you probably want to watch more. And there's always this infinite amount of content that can be shown. And so when it comes to curating, it's not really based on, is this appropriate for kids? It is based on, well, it's kind of close, and then maybe what I've noticed is they tend to watch a little bit longer. And that's
So
important.
So does that mean that if we had a child who is 8 years old and they're watching Netflix, for example, without parental controls, and I don't know, they see a horror film, or it starts up the first 5 minutes, let's say Annabelle or Chucky, something that has a doll, so they're going to be interested in it. Does that mean that afterwards, as the child returns to that Netflix space, that they're going to be more suggestions to watch inappropriate content of that type?
That's a good question. The way that I might respond to this is Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, said that when you're driving down the street and you see a car accident, you look. I mean, everybody looks. Well,
Yeah.
the internet interprets this as people like car
Mm.
accidents. And so it tries to give them more. And so what we start to see, especially if you keep watching this content, is the age of, we'll call it conscious input. That is, you start typing a comment, you like, you share, is kind of so last decade. Nowadays, we are very much interested in, AI is very much interested in watch time, the milliseconds that you watch a post. I mean, like, you flip through that thing so fast. But if you stick and you watch something for like 3 seconds instead of the average 1.4 seconds for a Facebook post, then ooh, maybe you like it. This is not
So
something that we can control, but
that's
it is like the right
crazy.
to
Yeah, so
our
it's
unconscious.
down to, yeah, so it's down to that close to 1.4 seconds. They know that that is what's keeping our attention.
And that's where things are going these days. It's going to be
Wow.
less about your input, and it's going to be more about subconscious input. Not everybody likes and comments, but everybody watches, and so
So
you've got more data there.
and so then what can parents do, to kind of get control over this, to make sure that their children are watching appropriate content, that the curated feeds are the way they're supposed to be, that even though they're getting their attention for 3.6 seconds or what have you, that they're still watching the right stuff. Give me a tip. Give me something to tell my parents.
Okay, so the way I break this up is in three different categories, and if it's okay, I'm gonna share some things. So
Yeah, please go.
we're talking just briefly about going from screen time to quality time. I wanted to emphasize that there are like three different levels of screen time. So the feeling is, talking about screen time as just screen time is like saying screen time is bad is the equivalent of saying all toys are bad. It's just too generic to be really useful. So let's change our language, right? So let's change our vocabulary regarding screen time to look at the types of screen time so that it's more meaningful of what types. Even the Pediatrics Association is saying, well, if it's just watching like YouTube, then, with less of that. And then if you're Skyping with the grandparents, like that's A-okay for screen time. So it already indicates that we need a better definition. We need to
Right.
be more precise about what we mean by quality of your screen time. And so there are three different levels that I have. They are called sedate, relate, and create.
Oh, I like
And
it.
so it's very like my motto is don't sedate, relate to create.
Oh,
And so
wait,
really
say that one again. Say that one again. I like it.
don't sedate, relate to create.
Okay.
So don't use. So we talk a lot about like sedation. So using screens to sedate could be just, I just need you to just keep watching, keep watching, keep watching, because I need time away, right? And parents need a break. Like it
Yeah.
makes sense. What did our parents do when we needed a break? Maybe they just threw us out into the playground. One of the things I talk about is, video games. They're almost like the modern playground these days. That's where the kids are going to hang out. So you go and hang out in the regular playground, there's nobody there. And like all the social interactions that you really loved about being in the playgrounds is different. It's gone.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can see.
Yes.
Oh yeah, thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Great. Yeah, it is really
Hashtag
good. It is really
screen
good.
time. I love it. And so to me, this is really important. Like when we think about like sedation, like there's a real need that people are filling by using screens. Maybe it's they want to feel like they're part of a community. Maybe they want to feel like they are conquering something, like they're winning at something in their lives. And most parents don't spend the time to really understand why. Like, why are they so interested? And
Right.
so in the next section, I
Wait,
talk a little.
before you
Yeah, go
hop
ahead. Go ahead.
to relate, what you just said something that just maybe go ding ding ding. You said that most parents don't spend the time, and that's something that I'm always telling digital parents is to ask your children to get involved, find out what they're doing online. I call it the 3 W's, 4 W's, 5 W's. It keeps getting bigger, but what are your kids doing online? Where are they going online? Who are they talking to online? when, what time. Those things are so important because if you are able to understand and know what they're doing, then you have a better gauge and you're better able to support them. So I just want to say that. And now I'm
This
going to
is
let
so
you
well
please.
aligned. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Elizabeth, because that's exactly the kinds of levels, right? And so when we talk about relation,
Yes,
right? So using screens to relate, what are
right.
we really talking about is three different levels,
Yep.
right? And so
I like your threes.
there,
I like your threes.
yeah, we keep it simple. We keep it three. The first one is just being curious, like being just insanely curious about what are their interests, and just being able to go, oh, I know why they're spending so much time on Minecraft. I know why they're spending so much time on League right now, League of Legends.
Right.
That's really important. If you can be curious as to why, that's really the first step in terms of relation. But it doesn't stop
Okay.
there. The next
Nope.
steps I often ask is, how do you know? How do you know I have a sufficient amount of understanding of what my kids do online? The next is being able to predict and influence what they view next. So
Oh,
if
I
you
like that.
know
Yeah.
that they're really interested in Minecraft, what would be the next video, or what would be the next thing that would help them get to that next level? Because they have a goal, and you're trying to help them achieve their goal. So I think it's very different than saying, okay, yeah, I really am trying to like show an interest in Paw Patrol, or I'm trying to show an interest in something else. That's not the point, right? You're trying to show an
Right.
interest in your kid and your
Right.
kid's interests, right? And you're
Right.
trying to understand, well, what is their goal behind this, and what can I do to help them with their goal?
Right.
So
And wait, I want to stop you again there because I think that's just a wonderful moment where I know that with my own boys, for a while it was Lego Ninjago. And I knew all the characters, right? And it's just like, and I knew why they liked which character. And it
yes,
gives you some insight into, who these little beings are. And it was the same thing with Dora and Diego. And Baboosh and the whole bit. I mean, when you just
yes,
sit there, yeah, I know it's like I'm going hard now. I even like the movie, but when you sit there and you really dig in with them and you're relating, it's exactly as you said. It's not Paw Patrol, it's not Ninjago, it's not Dora. It's your child, and that's really cool.
exactly,
Okay, okay, so
exactly.
back to you,
And
back to
so
you. I love it.
my kids love Ninjago as well, Elizabeth. And so, Kai and
I was gonna say
the
Kai,
dragons and
Kai.
everything, we got all
Yeah,
the books
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
And
Lloyd, the whole bit.
that's amazing, right? Because it's
Yeah,
even when they're doing homework, or even when I ask them, well, what do you want to learn more about? Like, I want to learn about this, like spin jitsu, or what is this? And we can it's insane. Like, you can go crazy deep into anything.
yeah.
Star Wars, my kids really,
Right.
really loves
Yeah,
Star Wars, even The Mandalorian. And it's like,
love it
well,
too.
it turns out, like, after you watch that episode, there's a new Rockstars episode which gives you a full breakdown of every aspect. And I've learned like all these things about Star Wars that I never knew before. Not because I'm like, oh, I need to like be a huge Star Wars fan, but it's just because I'm really interested in my kids and they are
Right.
interested in this. I don't have to motivate them. I am very much able to use that to influence what they will watch next, or what they will learn next related to Star Wars, or what they'll learn next related. And there's so many life lessons, there's so many homework lessons that all relate to this. You can almost take any homework boring task and convert it into
Yeah,
something related to that.
yeah.
So like
Totally agree.
even like folding clothes, it's like, okay, so we're gonna fold clothes. You guys want to listen to some like some Star Wars music? Like we're gonna be listening
Right.
to some. And, okay, let's go. Like it's
Right.
different
Right.
than,
Right.
oh, I gotta fold clothes again. So,
Completely. Okay, wait. So that was two. That was
yeah.
sedate, relate. We're at create now, I think.
Oh, no, there's one other level within relate, which is
Oh,
the action, being able to influence and predict what their next action is. And the
okay.
reason I want to highlight this is because for a lot of parents, especially when screen time feels out of control, being able to predict what happens when somebody says something negative about your child online is a big portion of how do we keep people safe online.
Right.
And most, like, if parents cannot predict what they're going to watch next, they're going to have an even harder time predicting what their reaction or actions will be online
Hmm.
if somebody says something negative to them. And this is really key, right? So if we know, like for my own child, that when somebody takes his toy or breaks something that he built, he's going to get angry immediately and want to punch somebody. like there's going to be those same types of reactions that happen online as well. And if you can't predict what those are, you're very far away from, like, you would never see what's actually happening. Like, you are
Right.
so far away from their interests and so far away from predicting what they're going to be able to do online that it's going to be very hard to build that really deep relationship where they trust you enough. Like, there's a level of trust, and there's a level of, kind of being able to, like, it's saying that I care about this and creating a safe environment for them to
Right.
talk about it. And it has to start with their interests, and it can evolve from there. But if you don't have this kind of groundwork, get started at the low level, right? Show the interests and then
Yeah.
build up from there. But really, the goal of relating isn't just to go, oh, I'm interested in, you're interested in Star Wars, I'm interested in Star Wars too. It's not enough. You got to be able to predict, what are they going to do if somebody says
And
something negative online.
and again, I love this part because we can just totally go back and forth, is because this is something that we talk a lot about in the child online protection circles, about building resilience in our children and
Yes.
teaching them how to react, how to bounce back. What are the strategies? And that's something that I tell digital parents as well when we're talking about what does your child do if somebody offers to show him, for a while it was Five Nights at Freddy's, which is something that's really scary.
Yes,
Just think of it
yes.
like the equivalent for
Horror.
us of
I love it.
Amityville horror. Exactly. What are the strategies if somebody wants to show you, let's face it, pornography or something else that's equally inappropriate? How do we teach our children to bounce back, to be resilient? What kind of strategies? How are we going to teach them to act? And when we're in this offline world, we find strategies, right? So, for example, we'll sit there and say, when we go to the park, if somebody speaks to you, you give them some sort of indications about what to say and what to do. If they get lost, how to, get home. But we don't always do that in the online world, and so then our children are left to kind of figure this out on their own.
Exactly. And this is the key. If somebody online can influence your behavior just based on, like, making you mad, then that child is going to be in a lot of difficulty in the future, because the entire internet, if you look at it as a larger scale, is one of, like, we're back to the Freudian. Do you remember, like, the big iceberg analogy he
Yes.
has? Like, there's only a
Yeah.
little bit on the surface, but there's this giant id, underneath, that
Right. Right.
is really focused on two things, right? Sex and aggression. So if you look at most of where things lead to in the internet, it is one of two. It is either it leads towards sex or it leads towards aggression. So, like, if everybody who says something online is going to make you react and be really mad, then, like, Twitter, what is that? Like, it's all aggression, right? Like, it's all people, like, really upset about things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many systems that are focused, or TikTok, right? Like, if you're not comfortable with watching pornography, well, then don't bring them on TikTok, because that one leads towards sex. Like, you can kind of see this based on watch times. They don't, like, see, TikTok's an amazing system. It's just like everything's like flick really quickly, and then it's just looking at how long you look at things, right?
Wow.
So those two driving forces of the internet, like, I don't know how many parents are aware of these or are actively talking to their kids about that, but this is the reality, right? Like, it doesn't matter what their age is, it's still leading towards one of these two.
Exactly. And yeah, and Sharia says that yes, it's teaching our children how they should respond and having them practice, practice, practice. I 100% agree, because I mean, this is it. We have to give them these strategies. We have to help them out. Okay, so now then, you've given me the three, and I think there's one more, which is create, and I'm waiting for it. So tell us about create.
So when it comes to creation, a lot of people think, well, like, okay, so I have a question, Elizabeth. Can you highlight Sharoya's comment? If you click on it, does it, like, appear on the screen? Because I think it might be good yes, there we go. So teaching our kids how they should respond and having them practice, practice, and practice. This is really the key to taking back control. And I think Sharoya's already, like, bang on the point. And I think that we need to start thinking more about the again, like, I love things in threes. I don't know why. But there's
Go
really,
ahead.
like, threes kind of my gig. Really, you can think of it really being about three different things. So the first step when it comes to creation, you have to understand the system that you're in, right? So we are in this internet of, I want to say, like, to a certain extent, it started off as disruption. It's like something that was going to disrupt the whole industry, and it did. It succeeded. But now it becomes this system of oppression, right? Like the goal is to just keep you on there as long as possible. Don't change things too much, like the odd post, those kind of things. Like, don't rock the boat too much. And so understanding that most systems are like that. In our society, education can be used as a system of oppression. In Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed, he talks about, this can be used as a system of oppression. And really, you have the choice to either be one of those people who become oppressed or rebel against it. And creativity is always going to be resisted because of this system, right? We don't want, like, the people who are at the very, very top don't want things to change, right? Like, things are so terrible. Like, yeah, they are, but for some of the people who are ahead, it's not that terrible for them. And that's one of the reasons why we've been talking about creativity for 50 plus years.
Yeah.
50 plus years, and we still don't have a lot of that because it's disruption. It is creative, like it is a type of destruction. It is a type of rebelling against the system. So understanding creativity from that perspective is important, because the next step is really like understanding that creation is a type of disruption, and you're thinking about, well, what are you disrupting? Am I disrupting how my family uses screens and things within the family level? It could be maybe in your broader community. Just within our community, these kind of things don't really work very well. We could do it this way. Or it can be the broader, like, internet communities. So within my community, I'm really interested in learning more about artificial intelligence and, parenting and how those two things apply. That can be another way to disrupt.
Okay, and then you got me all excited again. You just said artificial intelligence. So we're not gonna keep going for hours and hours, but I really want you just to explain to my parenting community about how artificial intelligence really is affecting our children, and what AI parenting is all about.
So a lot of folks describe it as like a type of intelligence, like there's a man behind the curtain. And I think that we use the wrong term sometimes, because the way it's being used today is much less like artificial and intelligence and much more like the automatic decisions of your unconscious mind. So it's more like an artificial unconsciousness. And the reason for that is like several. One is the input. Like, what input is going into these systems? It is no longer just your likes, your comments, and your shares. That information is too few, too little. So it is all these like milliseconds of watch time. That is not something that you can control, and it gets much closer to your direct input, like of your own mind, or of your unconscious mind. And so, like, we talk about those like key desires, those Freudian desires. That's where this comes from, is like what's triggering you to do something. It's just like animal instinct, pretty much. And so thinking about our artificial unconsciousness is really like, and having a way of describing that language, having the vocabulary, having the fluency with that, the literacy of artificial intelligence it's not really trying to hurt people. It's just, it doesn't work the way that a lot of people think. It's not like a person thinking, oh, this shouldn't be appropriate for kids. Like, we shouldn't have this. It's more like this is where you are roughly in the space, and this is where the videos are that you watch. So anything around here is probably going to be appropriate, but it has no idea. It doesn't think critically. And that's why, the skills of creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication skills is always going to be important, even in a world of a lot of AI, because it's something that they struggle with. We talked about how like AI can defeat grandmasters at chess, but you ask it to look at this video and say, hey, is this appropriate for kids? It's like, I don't know. right?
Yeah,
So
which is so much of the problem of the tech companies have to face with having human moderation versus AI moderation, and interpreting and what does it mean, and everything else. Okay, I'm going to ask one more question, and that is just what, based on everything that you've learned, your research, your areas of interest, what is something that parents can do to ensure that their children have quality time when they're on their screens?
so my approach has been a little bit different. Like, it's not just about
Hmm.
creating something. I think that that's a good approach, and they should be actively learning to create things. But my approach, especially when it comes to technology, is also understand social media and understand like marketing on the internet
Yeah.
yourself, and do that. Like, do some experiments with it. Like, this all this unconscious input that I talked about earlier. I don't know if people realize, but they can control this information, and they can read this information today using most social media platforms. Do you want to know how? Is this something that would be
Please,
interesting?
please tell us. Yeah, say it. How?
So right now, a trend that has been happening across all the social media platforms has been something called stories. So Instagram has stories,
Right.
Facebook has stories, Twitter has stories, LinkedIn has stories. Like, you name it, it has stories. Stories are very interesting from a data perspective. You think, oh, this is just the same as posts, but normally you don't get to see who watched your post, right?
Oh
So if you take a
yeah.
video, and like, usually, like, videos on most social media platforms, they allow up to 60 seconds, and you can use a program to split it up into 4 different videos. You take that 60-second video and you split it into 4 different videos. What you've effectively done in your own story is create a funnel, right? And so you know who watched the first video, the first 15 seconds.
Right.
Now you know who watched the second, the
Right.
next 15 seconds or more, 30 seconds, 45. So
Yeah.
you're getting that unconscious input free of charge, right? Like, you don't have to pay anything. Like, normally for marketers, we have to pay
Wow.
thousands of dollars
Right.
in order to get access to this data, because it will track, and we can do things like say, oh, okay, like, within, if you watch it more than 10 seconds or 3 seconds or more, we have that data. But here's the power is, you take that back and you say, look, I've got this information. You get a strong sense of what AI, or artificially unconscious input, looks like, and
Right.
you are on your way to taking back control of your own stuff.
I think that is a perfect ending because we like that. Having some control, we think it's important for parents. I would just love it if you would say again your sedate, relate,
Yeah.
create.
Okay. So
And also, I think you may have written something and you're going to share.
yeah, sure. Okay, so a quick recap. So
Yeah.
we talked about 3 things today, right?
Yep.
So you can use screens to sedate. We want to avoid that. We want to have a minimum amount of that as possible. And in addition, we are wanting to move it more towards relation. So I talked about the 3 different levels of relation, and that's
Yeah.
important so that you can predict future actions. So the goal is not just to show an interest, but also to be able to predict, because this is going to keep your kids safe. And then the last one is thinking about creation as a type of disruption, and that your kids are going to need to learn something about marketing. They're going to need to learn a little bit about this unconscious input. Don't treat it as just, I'm going to watch more stuff. Treat it
Mm.
as, no, like, I actually have to learn how this stuff works, and I need to go and try it myself. And you'll find that it's not as scary as people think, but people are not aware. Like, you never try that out. And so, really, for myself, my goal with a lot of these things is to make that information available to parents. So something I'm working on right now is a book. It's called AI
Yay.
Parenting: Disrupt the Invisible Forces That Control Your Family Today. It'll be ready in probably a month or two.
Oh,
And so
excellent.
it's something I'm working towards. And so if you want, just leave a comment just in your own platform, like just here, and I'll follow up with you. I want
That
to make
is
it easy. Like,
fabulous.
you don't have to go to another site. You just
Yeah,
like say, hey, this would be interesting to me. That would
that
be
is
like a great way to connect.
That is really cool. And I also think I need to make sure that parents know that you are a member in the digital parenting community. I love to have different
Yeah.
experts there that come in and answer questions and respond. So if you have any of the viewers, if you do have specific questions for Dr. Ed, please just tag him and ask, because that's what it's all about. We're all trying to help and figure this out together. So that's it. Thank you so much for coming and playing. And I'll be seeing you again, I think, in a week or two. And I'll make sure to post that in my community as I come and talk to your community. I love it.
That would be awesome.
Always sharing.
Wonderful.
Okay.
One of the things I would also add is I've tried to be active within the digital parenting community, because I think that you guys are a wonderful community of parents, and I think there's some great stuff here. One of the questions recently was about you had this ability to turn off tracking.
Yeah.
It doesn't really turn off tracking. One of the things that I wanted to highlight is you can turn off the ability to be tracked on different sites, because there are like web trackers everywhere. And if you turn that thing off, it basically the person who has information can still access it for up to 1 year. So you can be retargeted for up to 1 year. So or half a year. You may not see any changes on your account, but it's worthwhile to do. Like if this is something that you're aware of and you can change, this is one way that you can say, I don't want to give that information to companies so that they can use it for retargeting ads for me. It's up to you, but to me, it's fascinating. Like this area, like I love track me all day long, because I want to learn more about this stuff.
You sound like me with all this tech stuff and internet stuff and parents and kids and families. It's like, oh, this is so exciting. But so Soraya said thank you. I say a few other thank yous, and I am going to end this out now. And I appreciate your time. So thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth, for the opportunity. It's an honor to meet your community, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you more.
We love it. Okay, everyone, have a good weekend.
Bye.